All right, my man. We are live back on the CROWNEDCAST episode 10. Joseph Honeyset here with the illustrious co-host.
Joel Engulu right here. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, of course, man. You're illustrious, bro.
Yeah.
How you
Nice.
doing today?
Excellent, man. I'm super excited, man, because like, how you start podcasts, it's like episode 1, episode 2, and now we're episode 10. So I'm like,
10, man.
man, we've
10
done
weeks. 10 weeks in the game.
consistency, bro. That's
Yeah,
all I'm about. So I'm just excited. This is the 10th episode, so I'm super happy, man.
absolutely. There's many more to come, but 10 is actually the what separates 90% of podcasters from everybody else. Right?
Really?
Yeah, most podcasts, actually 90% of podcasts don't get to episode 10. So we are in the top 10% podcasters in the world. Let's go.
That's good, man. I mean, honestly, bro, I just think it's hard to find consistency, and I think you're a man of consistency and your perseverance. So like, I praise God for having a partner like you, man, because it motivates me whenever I'm like, man, should we do this? Then I think about you, and I know how you do that 75 faith. That's all consistency as well. So I'm like, bro, we got to do this. We got to do it. And so
Yeah.
I praise God, man.
I think of it in the sense of we already have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They're looking for what we're producing. We don't have that just yet. But if you approach something with that mindset, then when you get to that, you don't even need to think about it, right? That's what discipline is it's it's making habit from nothing, right? It's making your habits a part of you. And so if you're able to do that, well, now then like it's golden, man. It's easy. You don't even need to think about like, oh man, am I going to jump on this podcast today? It's, man, I'm jumping on this podcast today, regardless of if I feel like it or if I don't feel like it. So yeah, man, episode 10, top 10%, man. It's how do you feel like you personally have progressed as, somebody podcasting from episode 1 to episode 10? And while you do that, I'm going to fix my camera here.
Nah, you're good.
You're still not perfect at episode 10.
No, I would say for me, man, like I've never done a podcast. I've been on podcasts. I've spoken at panels, events, all these speaking things, but podcasts a little bit different because I guess it's recorded and you're gonna like constantly see yourself talking, and so that was kind of a little bit nerves. And so at the beginning, I was thinking of more structure, and I was thinking of like, hey, we need to have these questions lined up, and so I had a list of questions, and it was like too much, man. I would say I had like 15 questions. Like, okay, if we freeze or we stop, we go to this question, and then if he asks this question, I would pivot to this one. So it was a lot of like too much structure and stop letting the brain flow. So I'm like having a full conversation, and so I'd say like I've gotten better as far as like having more peace of mind, having letting go of like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a conversation back and forth. You might stutter, it might be a pause there, but it's okay. It's natural, and in real life conversations that happens. And so why not make it natural here? And so I've learned to like, hey, let structure and just let it just flow naturally. People respect that. People actually receive that. And so that's probably from 1 to 10. That would say that's like the biggest change for me. What about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's cool to see each other progress and excel with that. I love our dynamic, to be honest, when it comes to the pod. But you know what?
So you're on mute, my guy. You're on mute, man. It's all right. We got to figure it out, man.
Episode 10, episode 1 actually went better than this for me right here. Give me 1 second.
Honestly, man, it's a learning moment, man. It's a learning moment, but it's cool.
All right, what about now? Can you hear me?
Perfect, bro. Perfect.
Cool, man. I had to take my mic out. I had to level up with my equipment a little bit, but it's kind of setting me back today. Technology isn't always our, the separator. A lot, people think like, oh man, I need the best equipment. I need I need everything, the right lighting. Man, that's great when you get to that level, but it's more about the content. It's more about the conversation. It's more about the quality within the podcast, right? That people want to see, not how good your camera is, not how good your lighting is, if you're perfect, right? We're still figuring it out as we go. But for myself, just asking better questions, learning how to coordinate, right? We're not in the same studio. We're doing it separately. So that feeling of, hey, when should my co-host talk? When should I talk? Feeling that out, right? Not overstepping even our guests and, wanting to add a point. And so that's been my growth, my journey. And I can't wait to see what we're looking at episode 20.
Yeah, man. I mean, that part I was kind of nervous about that too. Like I was like, okay, this is gonna be kind of awkward because we're not together, and it's he has to talk, I have to talk. There's always that pause. But honestly, man, that's been my least. I was worried at first, but after the first two episodes, I let that go because the way you kind of direct, the way you talk, I kind of know when you want me to speak, and I feel like it's vice versa too. So it's like it's been all natural, organic, and so coming from a structure to more natural, that's what I kind of see from like our growth together.
Yeah, and Crowncast is super dope because of, I think, the relaxed nature of it. Where, it's not, super doctored up. It's not, overly professional, and I think that's what people are looking for nowadays. I think we're kind of tired of the doctored up people coming out with podcasts that look like shows. This is raw, real, and uncut,
Right.
and we give you guys the real. And it's been cool to see the support grow from, the first 10 episodes, right? This isn't going to be super motivating for anybody, but from episode 1 to now, we have 20 subscribers, right? 20 people that have watched our content and liked it enough to be like, man, I want to keep on following that. Which, in today's day and age, in my personal opinion, that I take that with honor. Like, I want to get in touch with all 20 people and personally reach out to them and just tell them thank you, because we don't take people's attention so lightly. At least myself, and I know you would probably agree as well, because we live in a day and age where we can get distracted. So you want to plug in, you want to stay connected to the Crowncast. Those 20 people see that we're moving in the right direction. We just got to continue on getting our message out there, and more people are going to come as time goes. But that's why consistency is so important.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have 20 subscribers if we did it whenever we felt like it, or schedules were completely perfect with everybody. Sometimes we got to flex.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is that flex. Entrepreneur, ministry leader, whatever vehicle you're using, you gotta learn to flex, be adaptable. And so if you could be adaptable with people and in the situation, I think you can thrive. And so we've had experiences when like, hey, we had scheduled someone to come on and they couldn't come on, or we were ready for them to be on, and they weren't on, and there was just no response. But so what do we do? Well, you gotta adapt. And so that's kind of what I think that's one of our niche. We adapt just not just on the podcast, on Crowncast, but also our events. Well, I think we adapt a lot there, and so that's what people like about us is like, hey, it's not too structured. It's not like, hey, I got to look a certain way. You can just come as you are and just be as you are, and that's the whole point of the body of Christ. That's the whole point of what we're trying to create here. Obviously, you're a king and you're a queen. It's always like there's always like it's like you're a high value and you're elevated that way. But the whole point is that like we're all that. If we understand that we're all equal, then there's no point in me trying to show off show off for someone else, trying to flex over someone else, and we can actually do business. We can actually do life together. And so, like, man, everything you said is like that's what we're about. It's not about perfection. It's God is perfect. Jesus is perfect. He's there on the cross. So we got to start where he finished.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, come as you are, but don't stay as you are, right? Because you don't want to, talk about your faith walk. The entry to faith is just wherever you're at. I saw a video on Instagram, and it's a guy, he's getting baptized, and and the pastor is about to baptize him. He's like, "So why do you want to get baptized?" And he's like, because I've been a piece of, a POS.
Yeah,
And the pastor looks at him and he's like, all right, you know what I mean? It's like, come as you are, but don't stay as you are. And we believe that in both ways, right? Like with our faith, with Crowncast, and with Crowned as our events, right? You want to grow. You can't get locked up in the perfectionist mentality, because there's nothing perfect on this earth. So why even try to compare yourself to perfect? You should be focusing on growth. And that's what we're about, right? Like I was saying, like I'm here to elevate. Like I got different equipment to elevate my game. It's still falling apart on me, but hey, episode 11, it's not going to fall apart, right?
exactly.
It's about that growth. And
Exactly.
we understand flexibility in entrepreneurship right, as entrepreneurs. But even if somebody's listening to this and they're not an entrepreneur, you're flexible in your everyday life, because when your boss tells you, hey, I need you here, when you said you were going to take vacation, but something came up, we need you to come in, you're
Right.
going to have to flex, right? If you have kids, if you have a significant other, right, you got to flex. You got to be willing to be flexible with life, because if you're not, then it's going to be hard. You're going to be running around like a victim.
Right.
And I was listening to a book this morning, The Principles of Success. I think that's what it's called. I just started it. That's why I don't know off the top of my head. But the success principles. And they were talking about, just owning your results that you have in life. And that extreme ownership starts with understanding, hey, if you're not flexible, that means, people are dictating how you live, because you walk around, you're going to be upset, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
because these things are happening to you, not happening for you. And that's why I love the fact that we have that same mindset of like, hey, let's just happen at whatever. We got some awesome guests in the tuck, and that we're going to be, uh, releasing here in the coming weeks. And time zones don't necessarily match up, schedules don't necessarily match up, and haven't up until this point, because we're dealing with other people. But this is what we asked for.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we asked for. We asked, hey, we want to have a podcast and interview, Christian leaders, Christian entrepreneurs, ministry leaders. Well, these are high level professionals. We got to work with their schedules and their calendars. I listened to Joe Mazzulla, the coach of the Celtics, and they asked him about like the unfair criticism that Jason Tatum has in the league. And he was like, yeah, but I was telling Jason, like, you get to have that unfair criticism.
Yeah.
He gets to have that, because, hey, if you want to be the face of the league, you're going to have unfair criticism. Hey, you want to be a Christian, you're going to have unfair criticism. Hey, you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have unfair criticism. But we get to have these things because it gives us a better life that we actually want.
Yeah, man. And talk about that. It means you're a leader. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen a drawing, and not just drawings, just like even videos. Like it's always that person. There's like tens of thousands of people running away from the storm, but there's always that one person that's running this way. And he's like, and everyone's like, "Why are you like that? Like, how can you be like that? Everyone's going this way, but you're going to the storm." And then, but he recognizes that it's opportunity. He doesn't look at it as like it's like, "Oh man, shame. Let me just do what everyone is doing." And that's what the word talks about, man. Like the narrow the gate. Like it's only one at a time. It's not the gate's not open where hundreds of thousands of people can run to. It's pretty small, and so it's not for everybody. But you be that you're that light, you're that gate opener for other people to see you and see God through you, and for them to unlock what they are, what their identity is, so they can do the same. And so as leader, it is hard, man, because it's lonely. You're gonna get a lot of criticism, but everyone's gonna make fun of you. You have friends, family, people are gonna tell you the opposite. No, 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 don't do this. Follow the trends. But like whenever you're called, God could like no matter what the situation is, you for some reason you just persevere. And so like I just think as entrepreneurs, man, like it's really good to understand that, but also understand how do you persevere is by staying rooted to God. Because like man, it's not easy. Loneliness is real, but then when you understand that God is with you in that loneliness, when you understand that God is like there, you feel Him in His presence, then it's not so bad. It's like you realize that okay, the only thing that matters is the Creator of this universe called me to do this vision, and so like at the end of the day, He chose me to do this, and He didn't chose everyone to do this. He chose me to do this. So let me just motivate myself to continue going forward. And so it's hard, man. And then, but like I said, you got to get rooted. You got to stay rooted, and And so I like that analogy you said about Jason Tatum because they actually had a first take interview last week about that about Anthony Edwards said he didn't want to be the face, and LeBron said,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, well, if you don't want you can't have it both. You can't say I want to be the best, and then you can't have all the downfall that comes back with that. It's like the quarterback gets the most praise, but whenever it's bad, the quarterback gets the most blame. That's just a part of it. You gotta if you want that, then step into it. But if you time will tell what you really wanted. Like if you say I want it, or we're gonna start now when the criticism, now when the persecution happens, that'll really tell throughout time if you're really about it or if it was just something that was for that moment, something about the hype. And so I think time is the best teacher, experience is the best teacher. And so yeah, man, I just think the only way to get through it, all that is literally to be rooted by Christ, rooted in God, understanding you're not alone, there's other people, but also you're with God, I think it teaches you that so you don't people please in the future. And so in the future, when it elevates you, you don't look for the outcome as like that's what makes you feel good. Like, oh, 10,000 people came to the event, I feel amazing. You know, you'll still feel amazing if 100 people came, if one person came. You know, why? Because you learn to be alone. You learn to be isolated. You learn that all you need is God. You don't need anybody else in this world.
Absolutely, man. I love that. And in the conversation of going against the grain, that's the responsibility of leadership, right? Like most people are not leaders, right, in their everyday lives, which is fine. Like there's leaders and followers, and people can. You're not born a leader, right? Like so, but when you are a leader, going against the grain is so important. Have you ever heard of the story about bison and how they react to storms? Have you
I've
ever heard
heard.
of that?
Can you refresh me?
Yeah. So, most of the time when like cattle, there's a storm, usually they just kind of lay down or they kind of walk. I'm spitting facts, bro. All right. This is my Texas. This is
No,
my
the way you said it, man,
Texas.
it's like laid down. I'm like, all right, bro.
But cattle, they either sit down or they like run from the storm, and them running from the storm, they actually stay in the storm longer because they're moving in the direction of that the storm is coming in. Bison are a little bit different. Bison, when they know that there's a storm coming, they head straight into the storm. And the reason that they do that is because they know if they're running into the storm is moving in the opposite direction. So they're going to be in the storm longer than if they would have followed the regular cattle, and the regular cattle would have gone with the storm. So it's important to face your challenges, your battles, adversity head on, because when you face it head on, you're going to get out of it sooner rather than later. If you just play it in the background and like, man, I'm not going to deal with this right now, then you're going to be dwelling in that season or that problem or that situation longer because you are not addressing it. And that's what leadership is. That's what being a Christian is. That's what being an entrepreneur is. You face things head on because you're looking for a specific result. And with that, you're talking about having a place, having a purpose, God designing your life. And that was what was so cool about this past Thursday at our Crowned event, just seeing all those different entrepreneurs and leaders and business owners in a room and having a place because they're all facing that storm head on.
Right.
And there you can get so caught and isolated and think like, man, this is the only thing that I'm going through. And then you get in a room with other people that are going through the same thing, and so much community is built from that, so many relationships are built from that, and then you get actual answers to your problems because the problems that you need to solve, people have solutions for right there in person. You're like, wow, this is incredible, right? So that's one of the coolest things that we get to see from throwing these events.
That's my favorite part, man. That connection that we never get to see. There's so many connections that are past events that have happened even to this day that we probably don't even know about. And then I think we're not supposed to know about it. I think we're just like the connectors and let God take the rest. And if we're really about God taking the rest, then we're not gonna worry about, oh, how much money did you make that connection that happened through, like, you don't worry about that stuff. You just kind of be in that vessel and allowing people to meet. And this past Thursday was super beautiful because, man, usually we have that panel and then the panel speaks, but we started getting other people pouring into other people. And that was the biggest thing I saw right there, because that's what the Acts Church was. It wasn't just like, hey, the leaders or the people who are there in charge to speak. It was like people pouring into each other, people filling each other's needs. And so that's what I feel like that's what God called the church to be, Obviously you have leaders there to direct. That's what we were there for. But the whole point is like, hey, here's a space. You guys are all like-minded individuals. You might be a new beginner. You might be a more longer in the faith, but you guys get to meet and you guys answer each other's problems. And it's like, if you're truly humble, the person who's experienced, he's probably going the same thing that the person at the beginning is going through, just in different way. And it's crazy how conversations happen. It's like, man, I'm talking to this person, but this is something I needed to hear, And that's that's kind of the feedback I got back from this Thursday. It was like, it was not just the connections. It was just like, man, I was pouring into someone else, but that's exactly what I needed to hear. And so I'm like, man, that's the way God works. He just wants us to get together and he'll do all the work. He'll figure it out. We just got to get together and meet and talk, break bread. That's all. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, somebody had mentioned, I think it was Kayla Kua. She was talking about partnering with God in your business. And I feel like truly we have done that when it comes to Crown, because we're the organizers of the event, but really when the event happens, he comes in that room and you feel it, you
Yeah.
experience it. And it's not just us from that leadership standpoint, guests, people
Yeah.
that have came back, they feel that, right? And that's what's missing in the marketplace. So that's what's
Yeah.
so cool about what we do, is like we bring business and God together, which, that's one of those things that it's a taboo topic. Don't talk about religion, right? Don't talk about politics in the workplace or in the business place. We're combining the two, not to be controversial, but to connect, to create community. Like you said, the panelists started to get involved with the crowd. The crowd started to ask questions, and that
Yeah.
connected so many people together, because it was just openness. It's
Yeah.
like, I can connect, I can be real, I can be raw. I don't even need to be judged, right? And I love it, man. It's absolute blessing to be doing this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you mentioned that part when we could have kept going for another hour. Like the
We
way I
could have.
was feeling, I was just like, man,
That's the unfortunate part of it. We gotta,
yeah.
we have time constraints. Like, all right, we gotta wrap this up here in a little bit.
It's learning, man. We're
Yeah.
learning. The more we learn, the more, like, I mean, we could find a place that help us have a longer time, if it's needed. But I just like that part you mentioned, like that when you felt God's presence there, that's what's missing in the business and the political world. And that's sad, because when you look at like Israelites and what God called like his people to be, you look at the word, like the Hebrew word for apostle, and like the meaning, we're called to govern, bro. We're called to like bring
Mm,
order into a city. Like we are. So people try
mm,
to separate Christianity, politics, and business. We're not supposed to. Like it's all supposed to be one thing. That's why the Jews like successful, man. Like everything they do is ingrained into like whether they're school, whether they work at church, wherever they do, whether if it's leisure, God's incorporated into that. And so the Christian community, we try to separate it because we're like, we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. We don't want to. I want to people please. So we got to get out of that. Like me. I need to be loved. Like I heard this quote. Like Adam, when he was created to love. We're humans. We're created to love. Whenever sin came in the world, we needed love.
mm.
And so it's like we need love. So it's like I need to feel. I need to get that people please. I need to feel. Hey, you look great. Thank you. I need to feel that. Hey, smell. I need to get that, instead of like being love and actually giving that out. And so what does that look like? I think it looks like every capacity, whatever vehicle it is, you're called to be that love, which is the core principle of Christianity, which is the core principle of what God's nature is. And so I think it's I don't like that we have to be separated, but at the end of the day, I think when we bring it back together, what we do at Crown, that's the heart. That's what God. That's what I feel like. That's what God's in the room, man. It's because of that. Different categories are in together, and they're just doing life together. And that's my favorite part right there, man. Because I super get hyped up when I see a individual gets to talk to B individual. They never would have talked to each other unless like we created a space for them to meet. And now they're off thriving. They're off doing business, or they're off doing ministry together. So I love that right there, man. And I think it's important that we keep growing and we keep trying to like educate people that, hey, this is like Christian community is business, it's ministry, it's all incorporated into one. We're gonna make money. We should make money, but let's do it the right way. Let's do it together.
Yeah, you talked about that even in episode 1 of the Crown Cast, to where, give me 1 second here. Go ahead and go off the dome.
Yeah. I mean, I remember talking about that because, like, for me, my biggest passion is uniting the body of Christ. Like, I feel like that, like, even when I was in college, I would like throw events, and it was secular events, but it was all different like categories. You had like athletes, you had the regular students, you had Greek life. The whole point was like, hey, I hate that these people only talk to each other in class. We need to actually do life together. So we started throwing events, and I saw so many people come like as friendships happen. They're like, hey man, it's because of that event you threw. And it was like that's what fueled me. And so like for me, I remember God kind of spoke to me. It was like, hey, this is what the body of Christ needs. We're too separated, and people are talking about revival, but revival starts in the heart. But revival can't even happen until humility and people come together. And so like that was the reason why, like, whenever we talked about Crown, it was like that's it right there, man.
Yeah, you talked about that episode 1 of just like collectively Christians around the world have like $1 trillion, you know, like
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what you said, but that's where my heart is at. I mean, that's what I talk about at our events is, man, how cool would it be if Christian entrepreneurs were the one to set the economics of a city on fire,
Yeah.
right? Like we were the needle movers in every city that we were a part of. We have the power to do that. And it begs the question, like, why are we not doing that, right? It's because we're trying to, mix the world with our faith, and you can't do that, right? Like, you can only choose one, right? You can't
Right.
serve two masters. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Exactly what you're talking about with Anthony Edwards. It's like, yeah, you want to be the face of the league, but there's all these things that come with being the face of the league. It's like, yeah, you want to be a Christian, but there's all these things that come with being a Christian, right? And
Yeah.
by the way, that's exactly what it's like. That's on purpose. That's what it's supposed to do. So, what has been your favorite guests up until this point?
Man, I can't answer that one because all of them has been really great so far because all of them have brought different pieces, man. Like we had Jarrell, who really brought like the ministry and the church part of that. Then we also had like Justin Allen, who brought the prophetic and spiritually, and then we had just Tomas, the business sector, you know. So like I don't have a favorite guest. I just like that every guest we brought on have been super like high quality, like people who are experts in their field, who have been through experiences, who have been through hurt and have been through like how to get back from that hurt, how to get back up. So everyone that we've brought on have been people that have been through that experience, and now they're like doing really well in their field. And so for me, I can't say, oh, this person is my favorite because, like I said, like I do like the prophetic field, I do like the evangelic, the market field, the networking, how we talked about with Genevieve, I do like that part too. But then I also like the real estate side. So I can't answer you like, oh, this person like really hit it on the head for me. For me, literally has been every guest, and I'm super excited about the guests that we're gonna have forward. But I guess since you asked me that question, I didn't answer you because I can't, man. Honestly, I can't.
Nah, it's a trap question.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm trying to get our previous guests talking, trying to get some competition going.
Yeah.
Uh, but I agree with you, man. I don't have a favorite guest, just because they've all added value. And the cool thing is they're so different. They're all diverse, which is really, really cool. I can take so many incredible points from each one. And like you said, they're all been high level. They've all been professional. They've all added so much value in so many different individual aspects. There's not like one episode that's like absolutely stands out, and I'm so grateful for the people that have came on and that will come on, and they helped us achieve those 20 subscribers, if you will, right? And like,
Yeah.
it's not us moving the needle, just like in our crowned events, it's not us moving the needle, it's everybody working collectively. So I love having the different diversity of guests. If you could have a dream guest on our podcast, or maybe a few different dream guests, who would it or they be?
For me, I would say, I mean, if you go locally here in San Antonio, like I want some local pastors that I've done life with, Pastor
Not local, global.
globally,
In the
globally.
world.
Man, that's a good question, man. Off the top of the dome, that came to me was Mark Batterson and some of like his books he has read. Bob Goff, some of the influential Christian authors here that write like some pretty popular books here. Those people off the rip that came to my head, I would love to have the podcast. But if you think it like far like crazy, man, I'm going like I would love to have Maverick City on here. I would like to have, um, man, some high end pastors that are doing great things globally on here. Like Renan Bonke, he's out of Florida, but he used to do a lot of evangelist work in Africa. Like I would love to have like either his son or some of his team on here. Brother Billy Graham's son, I would love to have him on here. Just people who are doing God's kingdom on a global scale. I would love for him to be on this podcast, just because that's our goal. We don't want to just be locally. We don't want to be just nationally. We want to be globally around the world, like saying, hey, we are a Crown network that's globally that, hey, we just get together through events, through podcasts, through seminars, whatever it is, we get together and then we just break bread. And so people who are doing things on the global scale, like there's another company that they do a water buckets all over Africa. I've talked with the president of that company. They're out of Dallas, and I would love for him to come on and just share his experiences. Some missionaries that are doing work in in Asia. Francis Chan, he went to Asia. I would love to have Francis Chan on here. I mean, the list goes down, man. Just people who are doing like God's kingdom, God's work on a global scale, on a big scale. I would love for them to have on here just to speak on them and to encourage people who are starting off, people who want to give up, but also just share their testimony, man. I think the more people can see how real these people are naturally through our podcast, the more people will feel like, hey, I can do this myself. And that's kind of the biggest hurdle I see, not just in ministry, but in business too. People look at something like, oh, that's too far fetched or it's too scarce. But if you hear their perspective and when they started, I think that'll encourage you like, hey, we're all the same. They started where you were at, you know. It's not in a public speaking sector. It's more like this is authentic, so they get the real them, you know. So that's kind of my message, man. But what about you?
To be honest, I don't really have a dream guest as of right now. I don't want to, I guess, like limit ourselves and what we're capable of doing. I'm looking for people that are wanting to come in and impact, that have high influence, and we can go and touch as many lives as possible, right? Like I look at this as a light to somebody. We're planting a seed because maybe somebody's struggling in their faith, their business, their mindset, whatever walk they're in or whatever season that they're in. I want this to be able to touch somebody's life in some form or fashion. And so there's so many different guests that we could have on that can impact us, or not, yes, us, but impact the world in so many different facets. So for me, as we continue to grow, opportunity comes, and I'm willing to have conversations with anybody, and that aligns with our values and our missions. And maybe at some point we won't even have people that align with our missions and our values, in the sense of like, all right, let's talk to somebody that disagrees with what we actually believe in. Let's have that conversation, because I think a lot of times that's almost even more important, because we live in a society where like you can only hear one side.
Right. It's
Like,
category.
I can't hear the other side, because like, oh, they're totally against what I believe in. They're horrible people. I think it's important to let people decide what's right and what's not right. Right. So that's the great thing about America. But I don't have a dream guest. I'm just grateful to see the opportunities that God is going to provide us with who does come on.
Yeah. That was the right answer. I don't know if you set me up, but that's the right answer.
That's your question.
Now I got a question for you about like the network
Yeah.
right? Can you give me, from when we started in October until like our past Thursday, what is something that you saw that now you have a different perspective on? Like something that you wanted to try and then maybe we did, and then you're like, that didn't work, or something you didn't try that we tried later on. You're like, oh, that's money. What's something that from beginning when we started till now that you probably had doubts on if it would work, or something that you did try and it didn't work? You can give me those two.
Great question. To be honest, I didn't even think about doubts of if this was going to work. I just wanted to get it done. Like I remember putting together the first event back in October, and like my only focus was getting the event set up, finding a location, having guest speakers, putting a panel on, getting the tickets all set up, ready to go. That was my sole focus. I didn't think about if people were going to come. I could see the tickets come through when it was happening, but you could get to an event and not everybody that registers to go to an event actually shows up. So that could have happened. But to me, I was more focused on the outcome of I set it up, like it happened. It's a release date. So like knowing that, just putting action into something that you actually want to make happen. It's not, oh, I like the idea of this. And because we do that as human beings, or even maybe entrepreneurs, of like, man, I really like this idea, I want to eventually do it. We keep all these great things and we don't put action into them. And so for me, I was just proud of myself. Like, man, I did something that I normally wouldn't have ever done. If you asked me, a year ago, hey, you're going to be throwing Christian business networking events for entrepreneurs, not just in one city, but multiple cities, right? I'd be like, it just wasn't even on my radar, but I was compelled to do so, and I put action into it. And so the power of action. And again, I was talking about perfectionism.
if you get caught up in the perfectionism, you actually care about your doubts, right? Because your doubts are feeding your fear.
Mhm.
And how can you have a successful event if the goalpost is perfection, right? You got to look at the blind spots. Hey, I can do it better here. We could do this, XYZ. That's an entrepreneur. You're always looking to grow. But when you get caught in a perfectionism, it's never going to happen. So for me, I was just like, man, let me put action into it. Let me ride with my guys, and we have the same vision. We're going to make it happen. They're going to support me. I'm going to support them. We all play a different role, but let's do it. And there's so much power in that. And you build your self-image, you build belief as you do that. Action is one of the greatest things that you could go from. Like, if you feel like, man, I'm on the bench, I need to get off the bench, put action into making it happen, right?
Yeah.
Get into the game, put yourself in the game. You vote for your success. I was just talking about the book I started today, the Success Principles, right? It's about extreme ownership for your life. And so you don't like where you're at, you don't like your performance of your business. Well, it's all on you. Everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you don't like how you're performing, you have the opportunity to change, right? And you also have the opportunity to not change, but it's going to give you the same results. And
Right.
so I didn't like how us as Christians were not doing business with each other. I personally believe we have so much more influence in the world than what we're doing. I don't like how we're so silent. I didn't like how, I'd go online and I'd, see like people ask, silly questions like, as an entrepreneur, should I share my faith? Like, that's silly. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's like, respectfully, that's dumb to me, because like, that's the most important thing in your life.
Yeah.
Why are you not showing that light to other people? Why are you not shining that? Somebody literally needs that, right? What if you could take one more soul into heaven with you, right? Just by having it out there, right? So I didn't like the marketplace, so I wanted to change that. I wanted to be that person that does change that. And I believed in myself, and I believed in you, and that we could make that happen. So, from starting the event, I don't think, in my personal opinion, things aren't far-fetched for us. You have to reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
You do have to make that happen. Just like Justin Allen was talking about, reverse engineering what God has placed over your life. You have to do that regardless, whether you believe in God or you don't. You do have to reverse engineer your goals and what you want to make accomplished. So it's like, man, we want to reach, we want to be global. Okay, well, how do we do that? We have to reverse engineer. All right, this is, we're global. How do we get global? From these events, from blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that anything is off the table for us. It's just all about putting action into it. But I'd love to hear your answer to that question.
I mean, no, that was a good answer, man. I mean, mine, honestly, I wasn't worried about, like, I'm saying for you, like, if you just worried about how you look, like, if I need to get in the game, I keep looking at my shoes. Oh, but this shoe's lost grip, or I got this basketball, or this, you're never gonna get better. And so basically, you talked about just like playing the game, just do it, man, and you'll learn as you go. God will correct you as you go. But if you don't take the attempt, God's like, hey, bro, I can't even correct what you, because you don't know what you've learned or anything. And so I do like how you mentioned that. For me, some specific was panels. I mean, at first I wasn't a fan of panels, just because it's almost like going to church. You just hear someone speak, and then you don't really, after like 15 minutes, you probably just get distracted and you tune off. And so that's kind of, I was worried about it. But honestly, it's been something that's been a blessing, because even this past Thursday, if the panel wasn't on there, we wouldn't have that breakout. People just sharing and pouring into each other. That came from the panel, So now I see like the high value in that, because it gets people engaged. And it depends on who you have as well. But I do respect the panel a lot more than what I did first started, because I was really worried about that. But honestly, we've had a panel every time now, and every time it gets better and better. So that's kind of short answer. That's my answer for that.
Yeah, and I will add, as well as just action, collaboration. The key with collaborating with people is making sure it's a right fit. Um, collaboration is so key, especially to elevate, right? We always want it to be mutually beneficial to everybody. Um, and it's not ever going to be, because as we grow, right, like we're going to reach different people. As other people grow, they're going to reach different people, right? So sometimes I think, um people get caught up into the celebrity of themselves, right? Like our pride and our ego. And so collaboration, learning how to collaborate, learning how to set standards, expectations, from that point, right? Because you're leading, like you've had experience leading other people, maybe as like from a positional standpoint in like an organization or your business, right? But when you're leading and you're not other people's bosses, right? Like it's different, and it's same but different. And so just learning how to navigate that with respect, with dealing with pride and people's egos and things of that nature. But learning what a good collaboration is and learning what, may have not been one, right? And that's from not just Crown, but as well as the podcast as well.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that's life too, man. I think collaboration is the only way. That's relationships. Life is about relationships, like setting up boundaries, setting expectations. Whether you're dating someone, whether you're leading a group, whether it's like a business partner, you got to set those expectations. And I think people are scared to collaborate because of that hurt, maybe a past trauma, and I think that's everybody.
Everybody,
So the reason people have to build those walls up is because of the past. I trusted this person, I trusted this business last time, or this church hurt me. I trusted them, and it's like now my guards up. I'm not gonna open my door for anybody. And the whole point is that the whole point of Christianity, man, is what Jesus did for us. He forgave us, and then you got to forgive people that have hurt you in the past. And just let it go. I'm not saying be a doormat, but when you learn forgiveness, that you can have you have that freedom yourself, and now you're open to collaborating. And that first collaboration that might not be the way God wanted it to be. Might be that second or third collaboration, but you learn, you adjust. For me personally, man, my biggest growth moments was the boundary setup and expectations. I praise God that the gift is I can connect with anybody. I love meeting anybody, whether you're from the hood, whether you're from the church, anybody, man. I'm a comic nerd. Like I just talk to everybody, right? But my problem was setting up expectations and setting up boundaries. I was too available, spread myself too thin. And I've learned through time, but that didn't stop me from collaborating with people. That didn't hurt. That didn't stop me from saying, I'm not gonna help people anymore. There was a moment when I was angry and bitter, but that didn't change who I was. That was just a season. That was just a moment. But who I really was, hey, if someone needs help, I'm still gonna help you. I'm still gonna try to build you up and connect you. That's collaboration right there,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Where do you see Crowned? What are your plans and expectations for what we're gonna do in these next 12 months?
As far as Crown, I see our events becoming a little bit, for sure, bigger. Whatever you think bigger looks like. I would like some higher influencer people, whether it's pastors, business owners. I like business because it ties both. But like whoever we can bring on there that has influence, I would like to have more of those. I would love to have like a sit down, like a few, like right now we're kind of building monthly by monthly. I would like to have like a few months already down the set. And so hopefully by the end of 12 months, that's already like a rhythm that we have. Also, I would say, now I want to have seminars. I want to have dinner. We've talked about having those dinner events for like, it's a little bit more exclusive, but we've talked about having those and bringing some more experts, whether it's us or people that be more strategic and having like day-to-day things so people can take notes and just learn. We talked about having those. For me, like I want to start. I haven't mentioned to a lot of people, but I want to start having like private, like speaking events, like us just speaking on like biblical principles attaching to business, a little bit more in depth. So just having different vehicles or different ways that people can connect, but also learn from experts. Not just that and once a month, but something a little bit more consistent. So my goal is at the end of 12 months that's already built, and we already have like the people in the tuck already that we know, and also like just the relationships that we've built right now from where we started in October and the relations that we have now in the Dallas network. Now we're expanding to San Antonio. I feel like it's grown dramatically, man. Like I honestly thought we'll be a little bit behind from where we are today. And so like, I just see the momentum, what God is doing. I see it growing. So I see by the end of this year, we should at least like double or almost triple what we did last year, as far as like, not just people coming to our events, but as far as like the influence of people that we bring to our panels and to our CROWNEDCAST episodes, And so that's kind of a goal. I can shoot for the stars and say like, oh man, I want 2,000 people at our events and all that. But I know that's not, God cares about the right people, not just everybody is going to be like wanting to come and join this. It's about the right people, the right connections. So it's not so much about the numbers, but about the influence that we can bring.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm in agreement with everything that you've said. Obviously, we've had conversations about this offline before, but just the expansion of it is really my focus, because we're a movement. We're an organization, yes, but we're a movement, and the more that we can get out there, the better. And so, for me, I really want to expand cities to multiple cities by the end of the year, whatever that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. Obviously, we have our first event in San Antonio this Thursday, March 6th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. For those who are watching in San Antonio, come out. We're about to show out. And actually, it's not even us. God's about to show out. And we're going to set San Antonio on fire, and excited to just touch people there, but expanding to other cities.
Yeah, I would say too, man. Also, like hopefully, like God willing, by the end of this year, that we're connected with so many nonprofits globally, not just like in our city, but like globally. Like, for example, I would love for us one day, like one of the months, we sponsor the orphanage that my family has, in
I would
Africa.
love that.
And then like we show videos of like, hey, this is how you're part of this crown, you're part of this work efforts that's happening in the Congo. Like just things like that, that it's not gonna be introduction, it's gonna be like something that's who we are by the end of this year. That's our identity. We do business, we do collaborations and relationships. We also go out and put foot soldiers on the ground, whether it's locally or we can support people that are doing that globally. And so that's another one that I do hope by the end of this year that we already have like some nonprofits with us and ministries with us as well.
Yeah, the goal is growth in all areas, from our reach in the podcast to our reach on the ground and through multiple facets, man. So I'm excited to see literally what the 12 months are going to be doing, because, we have, like I said, we have the greatest business partner. It's God, right?
Yep.
And there's such a need for it on purpose, right? Like God put this in our laps for us to go and execute. He's trusting us to go and execute. And I truly believe nothing happens for no reason, right? Like every open door that you walk through is on purpose. Every door that you approach and it's closed is also on purpose. And this is an open door. And so what God is going to do, we don't even know. We can't even fathom it, right? Like just, God could just be like, boom, one day and just explode, right? But I agree with you, man. I love doing those types of things when it comes to being global and partnering with, your guys' nonprofit and just other nonprofits. And so I wanted to divert this conversation real brief and go back to our guests.
Okay.
Right. We've had a lot of great guests, a lot of great tidbits, a lot of great nuggets. We don't want to talk about our favorite guests because we don't have them. But what has been a nugget or a gem that has been dropped by our guests that has just like stuck with you?
Man. I mean, just Alan, when he talked about like the calling, and then the reverse engineering, that's something I've kind of done in my head, but I've never like voiced it or just like have a structure to it. So that really stuck out to me because I've mentioned that in the past in my family. And like recently I've just mentioned like, hey guys, we have a goal for this. Let's start back how reverse engineering that, I naturally do that like in my head, but having to like talk about it through family and just, the business collaborations too. That's been huge for me. I've stuck that out. Second, I would say, this is Tomas. When Tomas talked about the relationships, like having like young men, you guys need to understand that it's not better around the corner. Like I think that's the point. Like we start things, whether it's relationship or business or whatever it is we start, we always feel like it's better around the corner. And so we don't give it enough time. We don't give it chances. We just jump to the next thing because we think that, around the corner it's gonna be better for you. Whether it's dating, that stuck out to me as like, I think as young men, for me, I used to struggle with that. As I was like, man, what about this? Or what about this guy? What about this calling guy? What about this one? So it was always like, yo, it's never about like, people just pick one and I'll bless you with it, And so like stick to it, that commitment, that consistency, right? If they fit the qualifications that you have between you and God, like you and I, then try it out. Like give it a chance. you know, and I think people don't want to give it a chance because of hurt pains or like, what if this doesn't happen? Same thing in business. I don't want to try it out because, oh man, it's a scarcity or everyone is doing it. What if it's different for you? You never know unless you give that chance. So it's like what Tomas said kind of stuck out to me in all aspects. It was like, hey man, it's not always better around the corner, you know. And that's when he talked about him and his wife specifically. But
yeah, for myself, a few people as well. For me, Genevieve, she completely just inspired me, to be honest with you. I think it was episode 3 with Genevieve.
episode 3.
And when she was talking about her story of, you know, working at a place, then going to school at night while being pregnant, and then starting her business, like you hear that even as a man, and it's just like, man, I can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
But you got like, you had every excuse in the world to not do what you were doing to give yourself a better life, and everybody would have been okay with it. Everybody would have been like, no, that's so understandable. They would have supported your decision, but you made the choices to do all of those things, and now look at you. Now look at all the things that came from those choices that you made. So for me, I was listening to that and I was very inspired, because we think we're doing a lot until we meet somebody that's doing more than us, and you're like, and they're doing it well, and then you see the outcome and the results that they're getting, and you're like, man, I really need to step my game up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Kobe Bryant in the gym. It's like LeBron James in the gym. I heard Austin Reeves, he was telling the story about LeBron James, his rookie year. He's like, when we figured out that we weren't going to be good, he's like, I'm going to try and beat LeBron to the practice before the gym or before the game. And he said he had got there like one game, like 2 hours earlier. LeBron was there already in a deep sweat. You know, again, he got there like 4 hours earlier, and LeBron was still there before him. And he's like, man, like, I'm not even like 5 hours, 6 hours. I think he said he showed up like 5 hours before the game, and LeBron was still there. He's like, I think he just kind of gave up and showed up. Sometimes like, I can't beat that. Like, what am I gonna do? Like a whole 8 hours before?
Yeah, he was like, I don't want to be here all day, man.
Yeah. Hey, but
that's LeBron. That's what it takes, man.
Exactly. We're talking about greatness here, right? And so I heard that, and like I said, I was inspired, I was motivated, and it made me want to do more. But also, Tomas Martinez, he was talking about billionaires and what separates a billionaire from a millionaire, and just the incredible focus that one may have. And I think, you know, sometimes we can get lost in the sauce, again, thinking we're doing all these different things. But there's this great book called The One Thing, and it talks about what's the one thing that is going to get you closer to the decisions or to the choices and the goals that you actually desire in your life. And so we can convolute a lot of things, but business at the end of the day is very, very simple. And you got to focus on those things and almost re-engage with those things each and every single day. And that's what I've been focusing. I've been listening to Tomas in my head over and over again of just that. Literally, I have of like, all right, what actually matters today? Like, does this email you're going to send? Does this, you know, strategy session matter? Does this, you know, goal setting matter? If it's not going to move me closer to my goal, why am I going to do that? And so that's even stuck with me, even from a values and a choice making perspective in life of like, right, like if it doesn't align with your values and how you want to live, then why would you go and do it, right? That's the filtering system that you need to have. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to go hang out with the bros, but it's like, oh, man, I'm in a relationship, or you know, I got my daughter here. Well, that's going to take time away from them. So are the bros part of my value system, or is my family time a part of my value system, right? And it's important to have that focus in those areas so you can streamline your life, so you can get those desired results.
Yeah, you gotta say no, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just basically said the bros could be a part of your value system, but which one's more?
Exactly. Yeah, there's different levels to relationships, right? And that's where it's tough.
You gotta say no, bro. And it's like, man, I don't want to hurt you, man, but I gotta do this. But it's like, that goes back to that people pleasing. You know, it goes back to like understanding that, hey, if you're alone, if you're by yourself, then like and you're okay with that, then even when you say no to your friends, and when you like don't go do what the popular thing says, and you have to be isolated, or when you're like not by choice, but like because something you have to, it's not gonna feel like, man, I have to do this. It's gonna be like, nah, man, like this is I'm good. I'm used to this, And so I like that you said the focus, bro. The focus was really huge. Another thing that stuck out to me, just it wasn't really something specific that they said. It was just like having them both on them was Chris and Teresa, like having them as a couple, like coming in and talking about like just their relationships together and how like they put God into that, and they don't like. I see a lot of like couple relationships that I've heard and I've seen now growing up. They're competing for each other. They're husband and wife, but they're like competing for each other. I'm just like, man, like how is that even possible? But Chris and Teresa, when they came on, it was really encouraging to see like you can do business together, even though y'all doing separate industries, whether it's together or separate. You can do business together as a couple, and you can actually thrive in that. So having them on there was a good refresher for that, because like I just see like the fire that both of them have, and I've met them all both of them separately, but seeing them both together, they just motivate each other. And now Chris is running for mayor, and that came came from that motivation from Teresa, just her experience in entrepreneurship, or experience of like getting up again and keep going and keep persevering. Chris already liked that, but that's just fueled his fire. That's just fueled it. So I love that.
Yeah, man. And that's super cool too. Just the fact that Chris is running for mayor. You know what I mean? Like, bro, we stepping into politics now. You know what I mean? Watch out, Joe Rogan. We're gonna have some presidential candidates on the pod too, man.
We get the governor on here, man.
Yeah.
One of these days, man.
One of these days, yeah, absolutely, man. He'll roll up in here. But I was gonna ask a question. I just brain farted that. So go ahead and speak your piece while I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone else has been on the podcast. It's been good, man. Everyone's brought like excellent knowledge and motivation. It's just more of like, how do we keep bringing those high quality people? How do we keep search? How do we vet it out? Because you want to bring everybody. Some people have asked me too, how can I get on? But how can you keep rolling that? And that's kind of been like not a struggle for me, but I've thought about that too, because like you do have to say no to some people. And so like, again, how do you say no the right way when it's something that you want to do that's going to help them out as well? And so like, I don't have the answer for that right now, but I've been thinking about that going forward, because we want to bring on good guests, want to bring on influential people, but we also want to keep it like grassroots as well, bring on people who are just locally, or people just starting off as well. So I think God will answer that as we go. But that's speaking of guests, that's been like a thing I've thought about,
Yeah, absolutely. I look at it from maybe a different perspective, in the sense of like, people do ask like, hey, can I come on? Right. And there's that, like, all right, as you're growing something, it's like, is your reach going to help our reach? Is our reach going to help yours? Right. And, unfortunately, that's just the game of it. Right. Like, we want to bring as much value through a hour conversation. Like,
right.
That's just what a podcast is. Right. And so, but what we're doing for everybody that we may be saying no to right now is we're giving them resources and tools to get there, to come on.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, we're giving game, we're giving tools for their tool belt to level up, to elevate to where they can, be that person that comes in, adds value. And everybody has value. That's not what I'm saying, but just that really that experience, that professionalism, that reach, that influence, right? Because hey, if I know one person and I want to come on, now I'm gonna just show that one person you, right? Like, we want it to be big, you know what I mean? Yeah. And time is of the essence, right? Time is of the essence. And that's the thing too, because if time wasn't of the essence, I'd do a podcast every single day and I'd have everybody on that wanted to come on. But unfortunately, we're not going to do that.
That's not the world we live in, man.
That's not the world that we live in, right? So
not yet, at least. Not yet.
Here's the thing, you know what I mean? You want an opportunity to be on a podcast. Podcast equipment is readily available, right? So go and start your own and be an influence. There's people that you can go and touch, and we're not special by any means, right? But build that for yourself, and that leads me into the question that I wanted to ask you was, being, a leader of a Christian business networking organization, we get to see relationships built, we get to see people impacted, but can you tell people the power of building your own network and why it's so important?
I mean, you kind of summarized it in a good way, man. But like everyone's heard that cliche quote, your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth, who you know. And so I heard that a lot. But for me, like, I think it's super important for you to like reach people as much as you can, because that's what we're called to do. God doesn't give you a light bulb, doesn't give a light for you just to hide it in your closet, and it's for you. That's what, even like if you go like Christian principles, like people who are just man, I'm holy. I pray to God 24/7, 24 hours a month. But I'm like, okay, that's great, but who have you talked to about God? Who have you went out, who have you connected with? The whole point is both ways. God pours into you so you can go pour into others, And so like while you're pouring into others, you realize their troubles, you realize their pains, and that calls you to go back to God and pray about it. So it's like a back and forth thing. The more time you spend with people, the more time you connect people, that causes you to like see their pain points, see how you can help them. And that causes you to go back to pray to God. But if you only do one or the other, then you're kind of missing the point. So I think it goes back to doing both ways, as far as like letting God pour into you, but you need to go and pour into others. That's the whole reason. And so going to your question, like, how's your network? Like me as a kid, I wanted to meet everybody. Why? Because the more people I can meet, the more people can see the God in me. That was the whole purpose, because I wanted to meet Christ. And so I cared about, that was my first. It wasn't about making money. It wasn't about having the most friends. It was literally like, hey, I really want to impact the most people, because some people might not get to read the Bible, but if they can see your life, they can see the Bible in you, that will lead them closer to Christ. And so that was my first thing. So I think it goes back to your principles, and like, why do you want to make those connections in the first place? If you understand the why part, then you understand then the how to, and the energy to do it. It will happen naturally. But you need to understand, like, why am I making this connection? Is it just to make money? If it's just a transactional thing, well, that'll die out in itself. But if you actually want to make like true, like network, true relations, man, you got to go pour out. You got to go connect, but not just like monetarily. You got to pour into them. And so for me, I just think like, man, it's important as an entrepreneur, as a ministry leader, like, hey, go back to understand like what's the why you're doing it for. Why did you start entrepreneurship? To solve those problems? Well, whose problems are you solving? The people in the community, people in the world, people in the nation. Well, that's going to have, you're going to have to go out and meet those people to see the problems that you're solving. And so like the more people you can meet, the more problems you can solve, the bigger impact you can have. So yeah, that's kind of in a short. I can go longer, but that's a good answer. I'll stop right there.
Yeah, no, that is a really good answer, man, and it gives that whole picture, right? For my answer in regards to that is just valuing the relationships and the connections. Like, it's so cool being able to meet all different types of people. Yes, at our events, but even our guests, even the guests for the Q&A panel, but as well as the podcast. Like, I get to have conversations with people I normally wouldn't have access to. And by having access to those people, I then get access to other people I normally wouldn't be around in front of, right? And so it's so cool because, just like Tomas Martinez, he was talking about, Grant Cardone and John Maxwell, and well, he knows those people, right? So if he knows those people, like, in theory, he could introduce us to them if he really wanted to, right? But if you don't meet new people, if I never met Tomas Martinez because of Joel Engulu, then I wouldn't have that potential opportunity down the road, right? But the best way to grow your business, what you want to do, is by getting out and meeting new people, right? New opportunities come from that. So many opportunities have came from that up until this point. 10 episodes and 5 in-person events just in Dallas. Just wait till we get it popping all around the world, right? So many opportunities are going to come because it's all started with an idea to connect people together, right? So it's so cool to just see how all of this happens and how all of it comes together.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's good. I was gonna ask this one last question for me. You talked about connections and collaborations, the right connections, right? Like just speaking on just the Crown Cast and the events we've thrown, the whole network. Um, we've had people that have wanted to come on and help us and collab with us. What are some key things that you look to? I know you said the values in the past. You said the values at the line. But what are some like things like off the rip you like kind of look to and see like, oh, this will be a good connection. This will be a good partner. Why? Because like we talk about collaborations, not everyone just because you want to meet everybody, not everyone's there for the season. You know, not everyone's there for that moment. It might be for something later on. But how do you kind of understand you personally? Because we have this Crown Network. How do you understand what's a good fit for our leadership? Because we are looking for that, but we're not like in a hurry to do that. You know.
Yeah, it's I look at it as just being the same way as if I'm choosing my wife, right? Like finding her, like you have to go through all these different prospects, right? Like when you're dating, like when you go on dates, you're asking questions that you need to identify who they are, their character. I'm big on character.
Yeah.
And you know, in a previous life, I was in the military. In the previous life, I did counterterrorism operations. And so there's certain facets of that to where you look at how people behave, you analyze them, their character, their different traits. And so I'd say for me, that's a strong suit of mine of just identifying people's character. Um, and you have to understand people are going to say the best things to sound amazing, but you got to see if those words and actions align with each other, right? Um, Values are super important, but vision, if they, because we've had people that want to help, but you know, you give people opportunities to do what they say they want to do, but they don't actually want to do it. Maybe there's other reasons and why they said that they did. I don't know, but uh, like it's okay to give people opportunities. I think, you know, like they say, hire slow, fire fast.
Mm,
And you
mm,
know, that process can like be like us feeling somebody out. Hey, is it a good fit? And if it's a good fit, awesome. Like let's go. Let's be a part of this. Let's go conquer the world together. Let's be a big part of something bigger than us. But if you're not, then that's also okay because we're so rooted and with our mission and our vision, and we know it's bigger than us. That's why we don't want any drama. We don't want anything to blow up in our face. So you just have to be very weary and very meticulous while you're going through that process of choosing the right people to join the team. You have to, you know, ask the question, just like when you're dating somebody and you're thinking about marriage, you got to ask those questions. You know, I don't know if you watch Love is Blind at all, but
man, I don't watch it, but I know you're talking about, man. It's like
so there's all right, let me get this off real quick. All right. So there's a new season, and you know, I'll watch it with my girlfriend.
yeah, I figured.
So you know, it's kind of in the later seasons, right? So the whole thing is like they choose somebody that they've never seen. They only have conversations with them. So the love that they have is built off of connection, not based off of who they are, their profession, the money, or whatever it may be, for those that don't know what Love is Blind is, right? And I thought it was kind of a corny show at first. Before I watched it, I'm like, man, this is actually beautiful because this is how actually the world should be, right? You build based off of not who somebody is on the outside, but who somebody is on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know, there's like, you have like 2 months to get married to somebody, right? And you don't have to. You can either choose not to, or you can choose to. But there was a couple, and there's like a week to the marriage, right, to the wedding, and they finally asked themselves a question of like, hey, what's your love language? But you know, for me and my girlfriend, I asked her that literally our first date. I
Yeah.
needed to know. I needed to set those standards, needed to set those expectations, and see if that she was somebody that was willing, not willing, but already had those things. You see, you got to find somebody that is a turnkey, right? It's a turnkey ready to go. If somebody's not turnkey for your vision, your mission, then you're going to have a hard time because you're dragging them along. They're not already running with you.
Right.
So you got to find the people that are already there mentally, physically, spiritually. Yes, I'm still talking about business, right? It's that similar. And like, it's not even the similar, it's same. You need to find somebody that aligns with every aspect of what you're doing. And if they're not, that's okay. We can still be cool. I can still support you. But that's my answer to that. A little bit of a longer roundabout way to answer it.
No, that's good. It's needed. It's needed because like I said, we're talking about collaborations, but you got to know exactly who you're collaborating, man. So thank you for that answer, bro. Because that was good. I mean, I don't have any more questions to ask. I'm just super excited about like what we're doing. I'm happy this is episode 10. Praise God. Honestly, I was just thinking like, man, when we get to episode 10 to 15 to 20, I wonder what's going to be like. But here we are at episode 10, and I'm kind of understanding like it's just God's doing it all, man. We're just kind of being the vessels, and we're just kind of learning as we go. But we are being available for God to use us, you know. So I'm super excited, man. I praise God for you, man, because I love like the leadership you bring. Your mindset is super sharp, and it motivates me. And so, like when I get weak and tired and discouraged, like I see the attitude you have that you bring, and it's like I love that, man. So
yeah, man.
You are, man.
I appreciate that, man, and vice versa, man. Like that's why I said, like I love our dynamic because we complement each other in so many different areas. And you know, a lot of times I'm very like gung ho, like let's just do it, and you always bring in that extra added thought of like, no, I think we should do it about, you know, maybe let's do it this way. And you know, we have private conversations, and you correct me and make me think differently, and I'm grateful for that because you know, talking about having the right people, like being able to have the humility to have those conversations and disagree in a way of helping me understand certain things. That's what, like, you know, it's equal parts. It's 50-50, you and I, you know, and I love that. And I couldn't be more grateful, to be honest, man, to be doing it with you and running in life. And it's so cool that we have such a long, lifelong history with each other. And now just how this is going to propel that even forward, man. I get excited. And, you know, these next 10 episodes, these next 10 weeks, I know are going to be, man, completely different. I truly believe that, you know, in these next 10 weeks, what we're about to do together for God, right? Like we don't ever do this for like, we're not looking to be famous. You know what I mean? We're not looking to create celebrity off of this. Like, that's why, like, I don't really like doing the interviews in person, you know, at the events. Cause I don't need to be on camera. You know what I mean? Like we just mesh so well, man. So I'm speaking that right now, that in the next 10 episodes, the next 10 weeks, something's different is going to happen, man.
I believe it, bro.
Something different is going to happen, and everybody's going to, that, you know, comes on CROWNEDCAST, that's a part of Crowned, you know, in the future and up until this point has played a big role in where we have, you know, came to. But I will say this, man, we, you know, out of our 10 episodes or 9, this will be our 10th. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a little repeat, but man, you and I, episode 1 has the highest view count. So, you know,
Really?
Like, maybe we don't need guests. No, I'm just kidding.
No. We'll see how this one works. If this one's getting high, I'll be like, huh? What is this?
Shout out to Tomas Martinez. He came in for second place, man. But I thought that was interesting. By no means do I think that like our guests are way better than us. You know what I mean? I'm just being silly here, but
if you're trying to be famous doing Christianity stuff, you're in the wrong business, bro.
Yeah. Like if you're known, if you get known from it, cool. Like, you know, like it's not gonna change me. You know, for the worse, right? It's not gonna, like, fame, celebrity, power, money highlights people's character, right? Because you know, now you have access to a tool, to a resource to highlight who you really are. Hey, you know, God bless when we, you know, keep on impacting the marketplace at a more valuable standpoint, right? But at the end of the day, this is for y'all. This is for God's kingdom, and that's what we do at Crown. We move the needle in the world with kingdom entrepreneurs.
Amen, brother, man. Amen. And all right, man. Again, this Thursday, we're coming to San Antonio. That's gonna be a powerful meeting. We got limited tickets, and so get them right now while you still can. Thursday the 6th, 7 to 9 p.m. We got some powerful speakers coming in and some good collaborations. So I'm super excited about it, man. I think this San Antonio one's gonna really like hit the ball. It's gonna be a seed that's planted here, and I feel like by the 10th episode, we'll talk about, oh, how does Dallas doing now? How does San Antonio doing now? And now maybe we're in Austin, maybe we're in Houston. I don't know. But I'm excited about this week because it's going to be a seed planted. And I'm just excited what God's going to do, man. Everything's all been God growing this, man. He's the one that does the increase. We just come and just water and do our part as we can. And the outcome is all his. And so that's what this has been. And so, man, praise God. I'm excited for this week. I'm excited what God's going to do going into the summer.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's it, brother. CROWNEDCAST episode 10, another one in the books. And we'll see you episode 11. Stay blessed.
Stay blessed.